Would you like to accelerate your career and reach your full potential in just minutes a day? Welcome to the LEADx Show with New York Times best-selling author and Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Kevin Kruse.
Should you procrastinate on purpose? Hello everyone, Kevin Kruse here, helping you to achieve your full potential 5 days a week. In just a minute, we're going to talk about ways to multiply your time. But first, don't forget to visit LEADx.org. You'll find hundreds of articles from dozens of the best writers out there on business and career, and sign up for our quick read newsletter. It's packed with actionable tips you can try out right away. LEADx.org. Our guest today is the co-founder of Southwestern Consulting, a multi-million-dollar global consulting practice. You've probably already seen him or heard him on Oprah, CNN, CNBC, Fast Company, or even Success Magazine. He's a global expert on self-discipline and productivity. His book, Take the Stairs, was a New York Times bestseller. His newest book is Procrastinate on Purpose: 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. Our guest is my friend, Rory Vaden. Rory, welcome.
Kevin, what's up, buddy? It's so good to be with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for joining us here. And we're going to talk about Procrastinate on Purpose in just a minute. But I always start with a universal question, which is, can you share with our listeners a time when you failed and what did you learn from it?
So this is one of my favorite stories. I really don't tell it a lot, but this is like a classic mess up. One time when I was just getting started in my speaking career, actually, and I was speaking for a company called Budget Blinds. And they are a larger client of ours, and we do a lot with them, have for years. And so I was speaking at one of their events, and we had another client who was looking at bringing me to speak. You know, we do that a lot where we have them come watch me live. And so I invited this other client to come to watch me speak, and it was actually like a half-day training, which I don't do a lot, but it was a really hands-on training. And so I do the training, and at the end of the training, somebody comes up to me and they say, "You need to call so-and-so, who was our contact at the home office. She's livid." And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, apparently the 2 guests that I had invited to come watch me live were one of the number 1 competitors of Budget Blinds.
Funny now, not so funny then, Rory.
Not funny then. And I had invited them to come to this training, right, that Budget Blinds paid, all this money for. And it was bad, right? And so the people in the audience were, they kind of saw these people in the back of the room. They're like, "Who are you? And where are you from?" And then, word got to the corporate office by the time I was done. And so it was very bad. And, one of the principles from Take the Stairs book we talk about is be the buffalo. And cows run away from storms, but buffaloes charge into storms. And it's a big signature story of anyways, that was a chance for me to sort of have to be the buffalo because I was very scared. And, I just immediately had to call the client and apologize and explain how much of a doofus I was and how inappropriate it was. And I told her, I said, of course, we're going to refund you the entire amount for this training. And, that's what we're going to start with. And it's funny because I say they've been one of our longest standing clients. That was one of the very first trainings we did with them. And ironically, it solidified our relationship. I think the fact that we messed up, the way that we responded to the mess up, actually solidified and told them more kind of about who we were. And we've had a wonderful relationship for 5 years, but it was terrifying and scary. And, fortunately they were very gracious and accepted the apology, but, not everybody does.
First of all, Rory, this is a phenomenal story. Usually guests give me something safe like, "I showed up to work 5 minutes late. I should have left earlier."
Oh no, this is epic fail. This is epic fail.
You are so vulnerable sharing this story. What a great lesson though. The service recovery actually strengthened your relationship. You turned it into something that strengthened the bond with the client. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk about it that, cows, when a storm is coming from, in Colorado where I grew up, we have both buffalo and cows, and it's sort of unique that's a very unusual topographic landscape to have those two animals. And when the storms come from the west and they roll towards the east, and cows try to run away from the storm. But the storm catches them rather quickly, and the cows continue to try to outrun the storm, but instead of outrunning the storm, they run with the storm, and it makes it worse. But buffalo wait for the storm to cross over the peak of the mountain, and then they charge directly at the storm, and by running at the storm, they run straight through it, which minimizes the amount of pain and time and frustration from that storm. And part of the insight here is, that problems that are procrastinated on are always amplified. It makes it only worse. So sometimes, when you screw up, you got to be the buffalo. You got to charge head on into the storm.
Listeners, you're getting a bonus too. You listen to that story and you'll know why Rory is considered one of the best keynote speakers on the planet. If you're in a position to organize a meeting or event, you're getting a whole lot more of that kind of storytelling, that kind of high impact, if you're going to bring Rory in. Now, Rory, I know you didn't want me to be pushing you like that, but
no, go ahead.
It's incredible.
Continue on. Promote away, Kevin. It's fine.
Let's promote away on your most recent book, which is Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. Now, we don't have the time on this show to get deep into the 5 permissions, so maybe you could just summarize them. You talk about it as a focus funnel. So walk us through the focus funnel.
Yeah, so basically the focus funnel is our attempt to sort of create a visual depiction that codifies the thought process that multipliers go through when they're evaluating how to spend their time. And there's some deep psychology to this that maybe we will touch a little bit on, but just to cut to the focus funnel is if you picture a funnel at the top end where it's really wide, that's all of your tasks, your emails, your to-do items, all coming in the top of the funnel. Well, at the top, the very first question they ask is, can this be eliminated? Is this even worth doing? It's the permission to ignore. If it can't be eliminated, then it drops down to the middle of the funnel, which is, can it be automated? Which is the permission to invest. One of the things that we talk about is how automation is to your time what compounding interest is to your money. And so we can dive into any of these that you want a little bit more, but just to keep going for the high level. So if you can't eliminate it, you can't automate it, then that task falls to the bottom of the funnel, which is delegate. That's the permission of imperfect, and realizing that 80% done by someone else is better than 100% done by you. And if you can embrace the permission of things being a little bit imperfect for a short term by somebody else doing it, then that's going to multiply your time in the future. So if you can't eliminate, automate, or delegate a task, then it falls out the bottom of the focus funnel. And at that point, there's one remaining question, which is, must this task be done now, or can it wait until later? If it must be done now, then it shoots off, the way we show the diagram is down towards the bottom left, which is concentrate. That's the permission to protect. And that's everything you hear about focus, right? Like turn off your alarms, shut your email down, close your door, don't accept incoming phone calls. Like not anything all that fresh and original there. But if the answer to the question, can this wait until later, is yes, it can wait until later, then that is what we call not eliminate, automate, delegate, or concentrate, but procrastinate on purpose, or POP. We call it for short, which is where the title of the book comes from. And in that case, we call it the permission of incomplete, and you're going to pop that activity back to the top of the focus funnel. So you don't procrastinate on it forever, but you pop that activity back to the top of the focus funnel, and it enters into this holding pattern where it cycles through the focus funnel until at some point in the future, one of the other 4 strategies, eliminate, automate, delegate, or concentrate, will eventually get executed on it.
I love that. It's a great, great system. And you did say there's some psychology involved in this. And in fact, one of the smartest productivity things I've ever read, I've ever heard anyone say, is your statement that the way you multiply time is by giving yourself the emotional permission to spend time on things today that create more time tomorrow. So unpack that for our listeners.
Yeah, so there's really two parts of it, right? Because when we talk, like my TED talk was called "How to Multiply Time." The subtitle is 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. People often think that it's a superlative or an exaggeration, but when anyone from Southwestern Consulting says multiply time, we mean it literally. We mean it empirically. So it is true that there is nothing you can do to create more time inside of the construct of one day. We all have the same 24 hours, which is 1,440 minutes and 86,400 seconds. But that's exactly the problem, is that most of us live in what we call the urgency paradigm, which is basically we evaluate things by comparing it to what else we have to do that day. We wake up and we say, what's the most important thing I have to do today? But what we discovered is that's not how multipliers think. Multipliers don't think about today. They think about tomorrow and the next day and the next day, something that we refer to as the significance calculation. And so, if you think of Dr. Covey's time management matrix, which was really popular when, it's the y-axis is importance and the x-axis is urgency. Well, that's really good stuff, and it's, probably the most copyright infringed upon methodology of any in the world. But this is different because, and if you think about, Dr. Covey wrote the book 7 Habits in 1989, and you got to think about how different the world is today from the year 1989, and you can't use yesterday's time management strategies to solve today's time management challenges. And so we noticed this new type of thinker has emerged, these people we call multipliers. And so while most people make calculations like they score their tasks based on importance, which is how much does something matter, and urgency, which is how soon does something matter, multipliers have unconsciously made a third calculation, which is significance, which is how long is this going to matter? In other words, how is this going to matter tomorrow or the next day or the next day? So they break free of the urgency paradigm, which is this sort of 24-hour paradigm, and they realize that instead of trying to get the most volume of tasks done inside of one day, they need to only get the 1 or 2 tasks done today, but they are the ones that create more time tomorrow. And the significance calculation changes everything. You multiply time by spending time on things today that give you more time tomorrow.
Brilliant. Love that stuff. Now, I'm not as eloquent as you, but anyone who's worked with me a lot, they'll hear me say, I talk about small variables and big variables. And what I mean is in any formula for getting something you want, for achievement, for success, a project, there's usually a couple of big variables where you just have to get those things right. And then there's a lot of other variables, and they're in the formula, but they're not going to change the final outcome that much. So often, I'll say to someone, small variable, not that it's going to be, anything significant. So you just move on. So I just love that mindset. It's so powerful. So let me ask you, Rory, a couple years ago, when I was doing my own productivity research, I surveyed thousands of people and said, what's the number one thing that's getting in the way of your productivity? And it was a tie. It was a tie between email. My email inbox is getting in my way. And the second was meetings. I'm stuck in meetings all the time. I can't get anything done. I'm always in meetings. So what's your philosophy or advice when it comes to meetings?
Well, I think so. One thing that we did at Southwestern Consulting, which was not out of brilliance or wisdom, like it was out of necessity, was, we started in 2006 with 4 of us. By the year 2012, we had like 25 of us, and today we have over 150 team members. And we really do sales consulting. That's our mission, is to elevate the practice and perception of what it means to be in sales. And so productivity is kind of more like an ancillary piece that we teach for salespeople. So we travel all over, right? Like our consultants, we fly out literally all over the world, 40-something different countries. And so what we did was we were trying to improve our communication. Is we had sort of the opposite problem, which is that we couldn't get everybody together. And so we created this thing called Mad Meeting Mondays. And what we do is we figured out that all the meetings in the company, if they were arranged strategically, according by department or team or whatever, they could all happen on one day, and you do every single meeting that needs to happen for the week only on Mondays, and then the rest of the week, people are completely free to actually get work done. And so they're zipping off, wherever and doing all these different things. But if you were able to coordinate, people plan meetings sort of arbitrarily, right? Some leader of some department says, oh, I need a meeting for this. And then some other leader in another department says, I need a meeting for this. And people end up passing the same information back and forth in different meetings and missing out on critical parts. So if you get everyone together at the top level and they really kind of communicate, okay, what do we need to happen and who needs to be in each meeting, then you really can eliminate a lot of them. So in our case, we only do meetings on Mondays, and I think it's kind of central to our overall philosophy, Kevin, where like a lot of people talk about, hey, the importance of having a calendar. If it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done. And it's not that we're opposed to a calendar, but I think calendars can be kind of dangerous today, because the beauty of having things on your calendar is it causes you not have to think. You just look at your calendar and that's what you do. The danger of a calendar is it causes you to not have to think. And so you end up going to meetings just because you're in meetings, because you always have a meeting at this time. And so what we do is we kind of promote, on any given day, you should take everything that's on your calendar and throw it off your calendar, and then make it fight to earn its way back on. And if there's not a reason for it to be there, then you give yourself the permission to ignore and you eliminate. That's the number one way to multiply time, is anything you say no to today multiplies time tomorrow, because it prevents you from spending time that you would otherwise be spending.
Brilliant stuff. I thought it was innovative when I heard companies, more and more they're adopting like one day a week as their maker day, no meeting Wednesdays. And it's a popular idea in Silicon Valley, to just have one day to be your maker day. You got 4 maker days with this approach, which is awesome. So Rory, before we wrap up, I always like to challenge our listeners to become 1% better every single day. So is there a specific thing you can challenge our listeners to try out?
Yeah. So I thought about this, and there's a lot of things that would be good, but one thing that's super simple, but most people won't do it, but if you do it, it'll change your life, is to read every single day. Read something, like something positive, some type of business, whatever. Read something every single day, whether it's a book, a piece of, part of a book or a blog or an article. And I'm just convinced where it's like, everyone I meet that's so brilliant, it's like, they are really smart people, but for the most part, they are just synthesizing and then forwarding ever so slightly other things that they have read. And so they're more like they have assimilated and compiled a lot of information. And that's what inevitably makes them great leaders or great influencers. And just most people don't read after their formal education, but the wealthiest people and the biggest influencers, a large majority of them do that every day.
Great wisdom and a great thing to practice. It's lasted for centuries. Rory, I think it's more critical than ever before because the pace of change is now so fast. Reading is one of the only ways, certainly one of the most efficient ways, to take it all in and to synthesize it and to stay up on things. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. That's what's so crazy. And I do, read some articles and things, but I tend to really like books because, a book, you might go, well, hey, is it outdated? Because by the time it's published, even the manuscript was probably written 18 months before that. But the thing about a book is most books take 10 years of somebody's life, or maybe 50 years of somebody's life, and 10 years of research, and then they distill all of that and they edit it and they work it, and many people review it before it ever actually makes it into that book. So you're really getting some concentrated ideas, and I think that's just super powerful. So I write on my blog a couple times a week and do a podcast once every week. And one of the mini blog series that we did was called The 7 Realizations of Rich People. And reading is like one of the things, just that statistically, if you do it, like your income is going to find a way to go up. So just do it.
Love it. Just do it. Just read. Rory, what's the best way our listeners can find out more about you and your work?
Best thing to do is go to roryvadenblog.com. I do a podcast every week. You can find that. That's there. I write every Monday and Friday. We have a free ebook, which is 56 quotes from our first 2 books, Take the Stairs and Procrastinate on Purpose. So if you go to RoryVadenblog.com, all that's there. There's a bunch of free webinars. I mean, there's it's just like this archive of all sorts of free stuff. So that's where I would go.
All right, friends, you've just been mentored by self-discipline strategist Rory Vaden. I got to tell you, my second favorite productivity book is the one I wrote, 15 Secrets. My first favorite productivity book is Procrastinate on Purpose.
Yeah.
Check it out on Amazon.com or your favorite bookstore, of course. You can get all the links and notes from this interview over at LEADx.org. And listeners, do me a favor. If you got just one new idea from listening to this show, hop on over to iTunes, click the subscribe button, and leave a short, honest review. Until next time, remember, leadership isn't about authority, it's about influence. We are all leaders. The question is, what kind of leader will you be?